What's up with it, Raider Nation? It's your boy, Raider Honcho, and I'm back with a brand new video for you. Alright guys, get right into it. You already know the vibes. You already know what type of time I'm on. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, well damn. Subscribe to the channel. Also hit me up on Instagram and Twitter, both at Raider Honcho. Now the Raiders start the season 1-0. The Raiders get a much needed victory, a much expected victory over the Denver Broncos this past Sunday. Now was it impressive? No, not really. Was it pretty? No, not really. But was it a win? Hell yes. And I'm from the business of they don't ask you how, they ask you if. And the Raiders found a way to get the job done. And that's all that matters in my opinion is the victories. I don't care how it looks. Just get the damn dub. And that's what the Raiders went out there and did. Now, you can watch this game and have plenty of critiques. You can watch this game and have plenty of complaints. You can do that. Or you can look at it the other side and look at some of the positives. Now, when you talk about some of the stats, I wasn't really impressed with the running game. We couldn't really get the running game going. I think Josh Jacobs had like 19 carries for 45 yards. It's like 2.5 yards a pop. Wasn't really impressed with all of that. I do believe Josh Jacobs, I wouldn't say rusty, but he's not mid-season form right now. I think he's going to get that going, so I'm not really worried about that. Devontae Adams seems to have a pedestrian day, and people think that he's been locked up and taken out of the game, but I think he was averaging over 11 yards a catch, right? The defense did give up a lot of plays out there on the field. I think the defense left some money on the table, some plays that could have been made that just weren't made. But in the beginning of the season, tackling is always a little off. The defenses are always a little off because you got so many different coverages and so many different checks and so many different rules to the coverage you're playing. In the beginning parts of the season, you're going to see people running around open. That's just how it goes. You make those adjustments, you fine-tune some things, you get it back together, and you do what you do, right? I was a little disappointed with the Raiders in the red zone. I was a little disappointed with Raiders on third down being 5 of 11. But at the end of the day, I don't really have too many critiques or too many complaints because we got the job done and we got the win, okay? And all's well that ends well, right? I want to talk about Jimmy G because in my opinion, I thought Jimmy G was pretty impressive. And I wasn't impressive in terms of just his numbers. I think he was 20 for 26, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns in the pick. The pick in the red zone wasn't good. Obviously, he's trying to make a play, try to force a ball in there. But I think with the way Denver is set up and the way Denver wasn't really able to score a lot of points, it really didn't hurt us at all. It really didn't come back to bite us. I think going forward that Jimmy G knows better than that. He's not going to try to force too many passes in like that. But I thought Jimmy G looked good, man. And I don't want to do the whole comparisons of Jimmy G and Derek Carr. I don't really want to do that. But I think what I liked out of Jimmy G, what I saw out of Jimmy G to me that was impressive was that he always looked like he knew where the ball needed to go. Every time he dropped back, it looked like he knew where the ball needed to go. Not just on his first read, second read, and third read. Like he just knew, like, okay, that guy's not there, I'm going to go here. This guy's not there, I'm going to go there. And that's some of the stuff I wasn't seeing last year, but that's also some of the stuff that's a product of knowing the system and knowing what your coach wants and being able to deliver what your coach wants. And that's what I saw yesterday. I saw the quarterback that was competent, confident, and just kind of cool and calm back there. Even when the pocket was collapsing on him and you were getting pressure around the edges, he didn't look like he was patting his feet in nervousness or fear or anxiety. He looked like he was just keeping his feet moving, being able to stay on his toes, be able to trigger and make any throw he needed to make from the positions he were in. He also made a couple plays with his legs, like the one that sealed the game, him running for that first down, which we got to give a lot of credit to Josh Jacobs because without his blocking and without him kind of creating a lane for Jimmy G to run, that play probably doesn't take place. So you got to give a lot of credit to not just Josh Jacobs, but that offensive line, because I didn't think the line played great, but I do feel like they played good enough to get the job done. They kept our quarterback upright, and that's really all you can ask for. I think as the season goes on and you're working with your zone blocking schemes or your trap schemes or different schemes that you're running up front, depending on what kind of defense the other team is playing, whether you got guys in the 2-eye, 1 technique, 0 tech, 3 tech, 5 tech, whatever it's going to be, I think that the offensive line is going to come together, get united, and kind of fix some of the things that we saw yesterday that could be a problem in the running game. I think they'll figure that out. But for a first game, first year quarterback coming in, even though he's been in the system for a while, I just like what I saw from Jimmy G. I just like the calmness of what he brought to the game. Even when he made mistakes, you didn't feel like it was going to poison his next possession. And that's not comparing to anybody else. It's just me in this isolated vacuum what I saw yesterday from Jimmy G. I never seen Jimmy G play a lot of football because he didn't play on teams that I rooted for or watched that often. But seeing him in the Raiders situation, seeing him with Devontae, seeing him with Jacoby Myers, who took a vicious hit, and hopefully he's going to be okay. I would not be surprised. I think they said they was checking for a concussion. I'm like, I don't think you got a goddamn check. I'm pretty sure he's got one. Pretty nasty hit. That stuff shouldn't be in the game, but it is what it is. I thought the Raiders rallied well, got the first downs they needed. I was really surprised I just was surprised with us on defense. I thought that we would be better against the run, or I think the expectation was we'd be better against the run. But like I said, we didn't do enough in the offseason, in my opinion, to shore up the middle of that defensive line and our linebackers, right? Like our linebackers I thought Diablo played very well. But it just still feels like we're not playing with an upper echelon linebacker core. And that's no disrespect to nobody there. Hopefully they can just get the job done and make the plays they need to make. But I was impressed with the way Diablo was able to trigger on things he saw out of the backfield. Sometimes you don't know if you got first back out, if you're playing second back out rules. Like, you don't know what coverages the Raiders are playing. So it's kind of hard to say who messed up here, who messed up there. But I thought Diablo played pretty well, getting to the flats and kind of getting hash to hash and making plays and triggering really quick on things that he saw and things that he identified. So I thought that was good there. On the back end of the defense, I wasn't too impressed with the secondary. Obviously, the secondary is probably the hardest spot to play in the defense because you can't touch anybody, as you saw with Marcus Peters getting a flag for a guy running into him. You saw Jacarian Bennett get a flag for pass interference in the pass that I thought was well over the guy's head, just because he pretty much tripped and the other guy tripped. So it's kind of hard to play in the back end, but you could tell that some of the guys were not on the same page, and whether it was going to be man coverage, zone coverage. I didn't like the way number 2 receivers that were in the slot were getting free releases and getting up on the safeties pretty quick. It's kind of hard to read a offense if the second receiver is getting on you pretty quick. We got to make sure we get jams on those guys going through the linebacker area, 5 yards and out. You got to be able to get hands on those guys so the safety has a chance to get over, especially if it's cover 1. You can't just let guys on the inside just get right up the field on the seams and the curls without getting hands on them. That's just going to be problematic for any safety in the NFL. I know people had a lot of negative things to say about Trayvon Merrick. I thought Trayvon Merrick didn't play that bad. Yes, it's obvious you can point out the glaring parts of a receiver catching the ball right next to him and say it's his fault. But unless you know the coverage that the Raiders are in, you don't know whose guy it was. You don't know if he was 1-2, if he was 2-1. You don't know if he was supposed to be in man coverage. A lot of times the safety is next to the guy because they're playing cover 1. So yes, he does have help. He is the help guy over the top. But if you got a 4 receiver set, it's really much impossible for a safety to cover all 4 guys once they break a certain area. And if you're going to allow quarterbacks to break, contain, and get outside of the pocket, it's damn near impossible for a secondary to plaster on to receivers for that long. Wide receivers and quarterbacks have scramble drills. They know where they're going. Defenders don't know where they're going. You're not allowed to touch them. And if you're in man coverage, you're pretty much staring at the receiver even when he's looking back at the quarterback. So the DB can't really tell if the quarterback is breaking contain, but the receivers can, and they know how to break off routes and get to different spaces. So it's just really tough if you don't continue to get pressure on the quarterback, or when you do get pressure on the quarterback, you allow him to break outside of the contain, get out of the pocket, move the pocket, and therefore move the offensive windows and kind of fit passes in there that normally wouldn't get through. So I think the back end of that defense, although you can blame this guy, that guy, this guy, at the end of the day, it comes up front, right? You got to make sure that you're keeping the quarterback in the pocket and closing the pocket rather than letting the quarterback get outside when you break contain, because that just makes it tough for any defensive back or any linebacker that's in coverage. That's just the facts of the matter, whether you like to hear it or not. So I think all in all, the Raiders played a decent game. I don't know if that travels versus the Bills going into next week. I don't know, but all I know is we're 1-0. The Chargers lost, Denver lost, and the Chiefs lost, so we're sitting at the top of the division. I think the Raiders are going to be able to compete. I think offensively, they're still going to be ahead of our defense. I think yesterday our defense showed that they still have an issue getting off the field on third down. Even though I believe the Broncos were 5 for 11 on third down, it still felt like the Raiders were allowing them to stay on the field longer than they should. And I think they had 5 more minutes of possession time. So I think they had the ball 32 minutes. We had the ball for like 27, 28 minutes. So they still had the ball a really long time. But at the end of the day, you didn't let them score a lot of points. You bend but don't break. I think they missed an extra point. They missed a field goal. And shit, you got the job done. So I was really impressed with Jimmy G. I thought they fought for the coach. I thought McDaniels, at the end of the game, you see the speech he gave. You see the way the locker room seemed to rally around him. So that's a positive. And, I was impressed with Jimmy G. I was impressed with the Raiders finding a way to get the job done, because I do think last year that's the type of game the Raiders would lose. Maybe not against the Broncos, but maybe against some other teams. Obviously, we beat the Broncos 7 times in a row, including the regime we had there last year and the year before that and the year before that. So, good win. Start the season 1-0. We'll see what we can do against the Bills. Get down in the comments. Let me know what you think about the Raiders. Were you impressed? Was it anticlimactic for you? I was happy with it. I want the Raiders to win. I see the Raiders win, so I'm happy. All's well that ends well. Get down in the comments. Let me know what you think. If you like the video, like the video. You like the content on this channel, no shit, subscribe to the channel. Hit me up on Instagram and Twitter, both at Raider Honcho. Until the next time, as always, Raider Honcho out.